I'd like to thank the organizers for this opportunity, and my talk is on breakthroughs in acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Next slide, please. So I think one of the biggest achievements in medical science over the last century has been the outcomes in ALL, and these are the outcomes for both the Children's Oncology Group and the St. Jude trials for pediatric ALLs. You can see that survival has gone up from about 10% in 1960s to almost 90% currently. And next slide. And all of this has been achieved through conventional chemotherapy, just your vincristine, daunorubicin, doxorubicin, L-asparginase, and bone marrow transplants. Next slide. But however, adults, adolescents, and young adults and older patients still continue to do bad. And you can see the survival for patients above 16 to 20 years is not as good as for children less than 10 years of age. But however, treating these group of patients with pediatric protocol or hyper-CVAD protocol actually improves the outcome, anywhere from 22% for younger patients to 10% for patients up to the age of 40. Beyond 40, these patients do not do well with pediatric protocols. So the next breakthrough is to treating adolescent and young adults with pediatric protocols to improve their survival. Next slide, please. We already know that there are various factors like age, WBC, the central nervous system involvement, B or T phenotype, which predict outcome in ALL. Over the last decade, minimal residual disease at the end of induction and consolidation has played an important role. And recently, various genetic lesions have been identified in ALL, which make an impact on the outcome. Next slide, please. So ALL is not one disease. As you can see in pediatric ALL, there are multiple genetic alterations, the most common being the ETV6 rungs and the hyperdiploidy, and there are more small ones like the BCR-ABL, CRLF2. Next slide. And there are racial differences. So if you take the Indian cohort and compare it with the Western cohort, our ETV6 RUNX mutation is only about 5 to 6% compared to what we see in the West. And we probably see slightly more BCR-ABL mutations when compared to the West. Next slide, please. And again, adults don't do as well as children because they have much more BCR-ABL positivity, 25% compared to about 4 to 5%. Hyperdiploidy, which is a good prognostic factor in children, is rarely seen in adults. Next slide, please. And I think the two biggest breakthroughs in pediatric ALL occurred in the 1960s and 70s. To the left is Donald Pinkel. Donald Pinkel from St. Jude's Hospital was the first one to introduce total therapy. That is, he combined various drugs and people were shocked. JAMA actually refused to publish his paper saying that, no, this is fluke. And he also introduced cranial RT, and you can see the survival jump from 10 to 50% just with the total therapy and cranial RT. And the next credit goes to the BFM group. Dr. Rahim started reinduction. That is, patients were again given induction after a few months of consolidation, and that improved the survival by another 20%. Next slide. So this is the BFM trials. Initial BFM 70 did not have reinduction. It only had induction followed by cranial RT. And then they introduced reinduction, and you can see the survival went up to 60 and then 70% with addition of both reinduction and cranial RT. And this is the standard backbone for almost all the trials. All of them have reinduction now, although cranial RT has been omitted by most trials. Next slide, please. And then over the decade, we have come to know that minimal residual disease is one of the most important factor for predicting survival. So if you have an MRD in the post-induction marrow of less than 0.01%, your survival is almost 90%, and it reduces as your MRD increases. Next slide, please. There have been breakthroughs in pathology as well. In 2016, WHO revised its classification and included new entities. These include the PH-like or Philadelphia-like chromosome ALL, intrachromosomal amplification of chromosome 21. The early T precursor ALL, these are characterized by absence of CD1, CD3, and CD8 expression, a weak CD5 expression. They express myeloid markers and stem cells markers like CD13 and 33. You have the new entities like the near haploid and low hypodiploid. These have chromosomes between 24 to 39 and have mutation in TP53, the Icaros gene, RAS gene, and the retinoblastoma gene. Next slide. All of these are associated with poor outcomes. Next slide. So pH positive ALL has been revolutionized with the introduction of tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So imatinib is used by most of us, and majority of the patients achieve CR, that is 90%. Overall survival in an adult is about 40 to 50%. Dasatinib has increased the CR rates, but the survival continues to remain similar to imatinib. We're able to use lower dose chemo with dasatinib. Patients who develop the T315I mutation will respond to ponatinib, and some of the best outcomes with the TKI have been seen with ponatinib in phase 2 trials. Next slide, please. In children, however, Shen and Dr. Pui from China recently published a paper which has shown that dasatinib is clearly superior to imatinib in Ph-positive ALL in children, and so therefore dasatinib has become the standard of care in children with Ph-positive ALL. Next slide, please. These are the slides of studies from the AAL0031 studies, and you can see before the TKI era, the survival with Ph-positive ALL in children was only 21%, and with TKIs it is improved to 71%. And the outcomes are similar if you give TKI and if you transplant these group of patients. So transplant in children is currently reserved only for patients who are MRD positive at the end of induction or consolidation, or who are continuously BCR-ABL positive. So this is also another breakthrough where, transplant has slowly been taken away from Ph-positive ALL in children, although adults still continue to be transplanted with Ph-positive ALL. Next slide, please. Another breakthrough over the last decade was use of rituximab in CD20 positive ALL in adults. This was a paper published in NEJM. About 30 to 50% of adult ALLs are CD20 positive. Next slide. So this is the GRALL study, rituximab study, which clearly showed that addition of rituximab improved the EFS, although there was no OS survival benefit seen. So there was almost 8%, that is 13% improvement in EFS and about 7% improvement in OS with addition of rituximab. Next slide, please. I've already mentioned about the PH-like ALL in the new WHO classification. These were first discovered by the Senju team and also by the Dutch team simultaneously and reported in the late 2009-2010. These look like on gene expression to be Philadelphia chromosome positive, but they are pH negative. And their frequency increases as the age increases from 20% in children to about 40% in adults. And they're more common in males. They are very resistant to treat. They have high MRD positivity and they relapse very soon with conventional chemotherapy. The above graph is the outcome for patients who have PH-like and non-PH-like ALL, showing poor outcomes in PH-like. Next slide, please. And this is also seen in adults. Adults with PH-like ALL have only a survival of 22% compared to non-PH-like, which have about 50%. This is from the Charles Mulligan group from the St. Jude's Hospital. Next slide, please. The good thing is that the PH-like ALLs have common genetic alterations like mutation in ABL class and JAK2. Next slide. And these can be targeted with currently available agents like ruxolitinib for JAK2, dasatinib for ABL class and PDGFR, and crizotinib for NTKR3 mutations. However, we are still waiting results of trials with these drugs and to see whether they can actually impact the outcome in PH-like ALL or not. Next slide, please. TALL has been an enigma. They rarely have any clinical or genetic marker other than MRD, which predicts outcome. We see a lot of TALLs in our hospital. TALLs can continue to be MRD positive at the end of induction. We see a lot of them being positive, but if they become negative at the end of consolidation, they usually do well. And CNS relapses are quite frequent. Next slide, please. The recently published AAL0434 study looked at TALLs in children. It compared nilarabine versus no nilarabine and capici versus high-dose methotrexate. Capici methotrexate is nothing but giving methotrexate at escalating dose of 50, 100, 150, 200 every 10 days without any leucovorin rescue. Next slide. So this trial actually showed an excellent outcomes with an EFS of 84% and OS of 90%. Next slide. Patients who got nilarabine had a very good DFS benefit, almost 6%, but there was no OS benefit. Next slide. And also, surprisingly, giving capici's methotrexate was associated with improved survival than high-dose methotrexate. And in US, they have currently moved on to capici's methotrexate for TALLs. And the best outcome was combining capici's methotrexate with nilarabine. So I consider this as a big breakthrough in TALLs. Next slide. These are two studies from India. One is from Apollo Hospital from Dr. Revati Raj's group, and other is from TMC Calcutta from Dr. Bhaskar Saha's group. I'm sorry you can't read it, but I would say that they've used bortezomib in relapsed ALL. Dr. Revati is used with FLAG, and Dr. Bhaskar Saha is used with Araci, and they have shown CR rates up to 90% and MRDVT negativity up to 60%. I think this is a very exciting breakthrough from our own country. Next slide, please. I'll be all of you must be thinking that I would be talking about immunostrategies as the big breakthroughs, but I don't consider them as big breakthroughs yet. Next slide, please. So first I'll talk to you about blinatumomab. Blinatumomab is nothing but a bispecific T-cell engager. It is an antibody which binds to both CD3 and CD19 on the leukemic cells. So it brings both of them together and causes lysis. Next slide. So the first study published in 2017 by Kantarjian's group in relapsed refractory CD19 positive ALL, also called the TOWER study. Next slide. Showed that blinatumomab compared to chemotherapy improved overall survival, but this survival benefit was only about 3 months, 4 versus 7.7 months. And there were higher CR rates with blinatumomab, 44% versus 25%, and fewer AEs, and it worked across all age groups. Next slide. This is more interesting. This was a study published in Blood in 2018, where blina was used for patients who are MRD positive. And giving 4 cycles of blina in patients who are MRD positive, they're able to achieve almost 78% of patients became MRD negative, and these patients were then taken for allogeneic stem cell transplant. These were patients in the upfront setting. Next slide. So those patients who got blina and became MRD negative had a better survival compared to those patients who remained MRD positive. Next slide. And hot off the press, this was in NEJM last week or 2 weeks back, and we are looking at a chemo-free era. This is dasatinib with blinatumomab in Ph-positive ALL in adults. It's a phase 2 trial, 63 patients. About CR was achieved in 98% of these patients. Molecular response was achieved in 60% of patients. Next slide. And these are survival curves which you would see in children. And here we are talking about adult Ph-positive ALL, where we are seeing an overall survival of 90% at almost 2 years with the chemo-free regimen. And I think this is what we are going to practice in the next. And this would probably be the biggest breakthrough in my talk. Next slide, please. The other molecule is inotuzumab. It's nothing but a CD22 bound to a chemotherapy agent, calcamicin. You have to watch out for veno-occlusive disease with this drug. Next slide, please. So inotuzumab has been used in relapsed refractory CD22 positive ALL. It's the INNOVATE study. Next slide, please. Again, just like blina, inotuzumab actually had only a 1 month survival benefit and about 4 months PFS benefit. Probably if used in upfront setting, it might show a better response. Next slide, please. Finally, coming to the last part of my talk, again, CAR T cells. This is something which we only dream and think about. CAR T cells are nothing but you take out the patient's T cells, you harvest them, you introduce a virus which basically attaches an RNA or DNA into the T cells genome and then makes it express an antigen, a chimeric antigen, which can go and bind to the tumor cells. Next slide. So there are 3 key factors in the success of CAR T cells. One is you have to clear the marrow like you would do a transplant so that the CAR T cells can expand. The CAR T cells need to be stimulated with post-stimulatory molecules, and this is where your first, second, and third generation CAR T cells differ, because without stimulation they won't work. And the CAR T cells should continue to multiply in the host for it to work. Next slide. And the best advantage of CAR T cells is that it can enter sanctuary sites like the testis and CNS. Next slide. There have been various CAR T cell trials with response rates more than 80% in both adults and pediatrics. Next slide. I'd like to highlight 2 trials, the ELINA trial in pediatric patients and the MSKC trial in adult patients. So you can see that the overall survival in the pediatric cohort was almost 66%. Adults was probably half of what we are seeing in the pediatric patients. Next slide. The thing I would like to highlight is that in the ELINA study, they started off with 107 patients who were screened for CAR T cell, but at the end, only about half of them, about 48, got the CAR T cells. So this is an unmet area where patients are unable to get CAR T cells or patients progress before they get CAR T cells. Next slide. And for residents, it's important to remember that CAR T cells are commonly associated off-target toxicities to the liver and the kidney. You can have cytokine release syndromes and you can have neurotoxicity. Next slide. And relapses still occur in CAR T cells. It's because either the CAR T cells are not persistent or these tumor cells become very smart and they lose CD19 or CD22. Next slide. So this is basic summary of what I've already said. Next slide, please. There are other promising therapies which are coming. So daratumumab, which is a drug which is used in multiple myeloma, has shown good response in TALLs. We are getting CD22 CAR T cells from the NCI. We are getting CD3 CAR T cells for T cell leukemias and lymphomas. Liposomal vincristine is associated with lesser neurotoxicity. And majority of the agents which have spoken, like the blinatumomab, CAR T cells, are being brought upfront in ALL. Next slide. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope you found the talk to be useful.